Hey, you're listening to the Resilient by Design podcast. Today's episode is a little bit different for two reasons. One, if you can't tell yet, this isn't Rebecca. This is Vera. So who the heck am I and why am I here? If you've been following us on the podcast, on social media, or are part of our design community on Facebook, you may have heard of me. I work with Rebecca and I help her with all things marketing for both her design firm and online coaching. And so today I'm stepping in to introduce the podcast as Rebecca has slightly lost her voice. But don't worry, she will be back next week with a brand new and amazing interview. So stay tuned for that. Now, the second reason this podcast is special. It's special because it's a rebroadcast of a phenomenal roundtable talk all about process with Jessie Kelly and Nemtean of Carriage Designs and the Collective Workspace. A process needs to be as unique as you are. As the ladies share their processes and how they develop them, you will truly understand that there isn't a one-size-fits-all to process. You really have to make it fit you and your business. I'll let them tell you more about it. So that's it for me. I really hope you enjoyed this episode.
Today, I am doing a very different kind of podcast episode. It is really a discussion. It's like a round table with two of my closest designer friends, Jessie Kelly and Nemtean. Jessie, as she's affectionately known, is the principal and owner of Jessie Kelly Design here in Toronto. And Carly is the owner of two companies. She's the co-owner of Carriage Design Build here in Toronto, as well as the owner and founder of the Collective Workspace, which is actually where we're currently recording this episode. It's really neat. They have this incredible podcast booth with all these fancy mics and this like mastering thing. I feel super honored to be here working in this lovely space. So today, I think today's episode, honestly, I know I say this all the time, but I think it might be one of my favorites. It is a discussion about our businesses and how far we've come, looking back at the beginning. What did we do wrong at the beginning? How have we learned? And how has our process developed over time? What I like about this episode and these two individuals is that Jessie and Carly both have really nailed down processes in their company, but their processes are different. And I think it's important for designers who are listening to see that there isn't one size fits all when it comes to running a design business. And I know sometimes that can feel frustrating when I know for me, I just wanted the answer, like, what is everyone doing? Tell me how to do it and I'll do it. But the reality is so many of us like different parts of design. And we talk about that today, actually, about how, some of us prefer selecting the hard materials and the finishes and doing the renovations and the new construction. And others of us really just love the soft furnishings and the styling. And that's okay. So I think today's podcast, more than any, is going to open your eyes to see that there's more than one way to run a design business. And there's different processes. And I have them both walk through step by step each of their processes. So I think there'll be a lot to learn. So here we go, my episode with Jessie and Carly.
All right. I'm Rebecca Hay, and I've built a successful interior design business by trial and error, podcasts, online courses, and so many freaking books. Over the last decade, I've grown from an insecure student to having false starts to careers, and now I'm finally in the place where I want to be. Throughout my journey, it's been pretty obvious that I'm passionate about business and helping other entrepreneurs do the same. Each week, I'll share tangible takeaways from my own experience and the experiences of other badass women to help you build your confidence and change your business.
Are you looking to expand your network, gain momentum in your business, and be around your tribe of designers or decorators or architects? If you answered yes, then go check out the Collective Workspace. They offer a range of private office suites, flex workspaces, boardroom rentals, and many more perks, along with a trade-only design resource library. Oh, and did I mention a boutique gym? Their flagship space is located in the heart of Toronto. I am here right now. in the Design District, with a second location opening up this fall in Mississauga. Go check them out at thecollectiveto.com or go on Instagram at the Collective Workspace, your tour, or take advantage of their free 3-day pass. Okay, we're here. I'm so excited. This is my first podcast with more than one guest and with two good friends. Say hi.
Hi. This is my first podcast in general. So
Really?
Yes.
Ooh, I feel so honored.
I'm like a veteran. No, this is my third podcast.
No big deal.
Second.
No big deal.
In your studio. She's so fancy.
In my studio. No, it's your studio.
Yeah, I'm very excited to announce that I now have my very first podcast sponsor.
Aww.
Yay, the Collective Workspace. And I can't wait to share a little bit more about them, but they're my first sponsor. So I'm going to be recording in their fancy podcast studio.
All right. No, it just took us some time to figure it out. We
Yeah.
had the answers the whole time.
We've been here trying to figure out the mix master thing and my computer and my phone for probably an hour. It's rather embarrassing.
and we
anyhow.
figured it out.
Yeah.
Girls can do it.
You can do it.
Girls can do anything. Okay, girls. So I'm really excited to have you on the podcast. Thank you so much for carving out the time. I know you both have really busy schedules. And more than ever, I think we're all slamming busy. And you both just had babies. So
know.
you have that. Why don't you, I guess, take turns and just share a little something about yourselves?
Okay, my name is Jessie Kelly, and my company name is Jessica Kelly Design. I have had my business for, probably about 12 years now. And
know that.
yeah, I started off doing male bachelor plans and condos and small spaces, and then sort of evolved into doing larger residential spaces. And yeah, here we are today. My focus is on contemporary interiors with character.
And you just got a great feature in the Toronto Star.
Yes, that was a project near and dear to my heart. It was my sister's renovation. They lived with me during the renovation, so that was interesting, but also very fun. And we live on the same street, so it was kind of, it was fun to be featured.
That's awesome. Jessie, just so for those who don't know, but you probably do, is continually featured in national publications, local publications. She's a pretty big deal.
I say so.
And Jessie and I, we met through my cousin, who's also a designer, at IDS.
Yes, yeah.
How many
and
years ago?
also many moons ago.
Yeah, at least, was it before I had my babies?
Oh, way before. You weren't even married yet.
Oh my God.
wow.
Yeah. You were living Queen West, I want to say.
Yeah, I was living right downtown.
Yeah, same with me. Back when we used to go out.
Yes.
And we
went
had
out
no
that night.
responsibilities.
Totally. Yeah, we totally connected. And then slowly over the years, we would like randomly call each other from time to time. And then we would call each other more frequently, right? And then it was kind of like we'd call each other for advice.
Yeah.
And you were really my first designer pal that I felt that I could call and ask questions of and say, hey, oh my gosh, I'm going through this situation with a client. What would you do? And then you would give me your feedback and then you'd call me. And then we started getting together and then we went to High Point together.
Yep. Yeah, I think before I remember those days of feeling really isolated and feeling like there was no one that you could call for advice or even just to pick their brain about a design issue or a client issue, because we've all had them. But I do think that the industry is quite a bit more collaborative now, and it's nice. Now I have so many designer gal pals I can call on for advice.
Yeah. And so then we have Carly, our other designer gal pal. Why don't you tell everyone about you?
I'm Carly Nemtean. I run Carriage Lane Design Build for going on 9 years now. I have a business partner, Rocco, who is my co-founder, co-owner, and we opened up the Collective Workspace this past year. We're going on 1 year, November 3rd, I believe. November 6th. So yeah, remember we had like that big, massive Halloween party here?
Yes.
Oh, yeah, you weren't there.
I missed it.
You missed it.
I was at Tony
party.
Robbins.
It was a good party. I was here.
Robbins, yeah.
I know. I wish I'd been here.
No, but Tony Robbins, I'm sure, was amazing because you saw Rachel Hollis.
I saw Rachel Hollis, my idol.
Yeah, she's your idol.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, we practice in our design firm. We do mainly renovations and additions, and we do, full furnishing. And we do very, I guess, eclectic modern projects, a lot of based on, the homeowners' styles. So that's a little bit about myself.
And you're published all the time too, in the newspaper.
Just recently,
all the time.
Just the past year. The past year. The last, my business partner doesn't like that kind of attention, and we've never really gone after it. But now we're like, with the collective, I think that we did, like, it's been a great opportunity. It definitely has.
So I have to tell everyone, I've mentioned this before. It was a long time ago. About Carly and I have a history.
We have a history.
So when I first started my business, I was working out in my house, and I had this really great intern. And I won't say her name, but she was great. And she went back to school. And then finally she connected with me in the winter and said, hey, I'm graduating. Like, maybe, are you looking for someone to hire? And at the time I thought, I can't afford that. Or, I don't know. Like, an intern was kind of the most I felt I could afford. But I thought, oh, she's so good. Yeah, I'll hire you. And I had this anxiety over hiring. She was like my very first hire.
I didn't know she was your first hire.
She was my first hire. They say you always remember your first, Carly. And so I was really excited, and she started with me, and she was all like, I thought she was like in it with me, like we were going to grow this business together, and I was like emotionally and invested. I'm sure Jessie remembers me talking about,
shit.
I don't know, back in the day. And then she had mentioned before that she had applied for a job at a company called Carriage Design Build. And at the time I didn't know them, and I knew that Carriage had done some television, some Property Brothers, I think. And I had also done some of that. So I was like, okay, yeah, that's really cool. But I didn't know who they were, and they didn't offer her a job. So fine. So she's working for me until she wasn't. And she left me and broke my heart and took a job. And the thing is, to be honest, it's so funny. In hindsight, I was so stressed out about her hours because I was still a newbie designer. You guys were like established, legit firm. And I was obsessed with tracking every hour and like, did that take her half an hour? Oh my gosh. And in the early days when you hire someone and you're so concerned about every penny. And I learned my lesson that that's stressful to an employee to be constantly questioning their hours, asking them, well, how many hours? I think you should be done by, it's 3:30. Okay, you can go, even though the task isn't done, because I'm thinking in my head, I don't want to spend another, I don't know, $20. I don't know what it was at the time. And so she said, Carriage has offered me a position and I'm going to take it. And I was like, and she explained, she's like, I have to look out for my future and all these things. And it was very eloquently put, but I was devastated. I was so devastated. I was crying to my husband. He was like, get over it. It's just an employee. I'm like, you don't understand. I was so upset to the point that now Carriage Design Build in my mind was blacklisted. And I never met Carly. I'd never met you. And I remember going to IDS and seeing you across the hall with her.
Oh, shit.
And I walked the other way.
I would do the same.
I didn't know this story.
You didn't?
No.
Oh, yeah. Probably this is time has passed, so I feel comfortable sharing
Then
it.
I saw you at the Restoration Hardware party, and I came up to you, introduced myself, and you're still giving me slant eye.
I don't remember that. But you were so nice. And then when did we reconnected? Oh, so then we had our business of design meeting, and you were one of the members.
And I was blacklisted still.
And I was nervous. I thought, okay, I'm going to give this girl a chance.
I didn't think you were going to let me into the group, to be honest.
I remember Jessie saying, oh, there's this girl, Carly from Carriage Lane. I think you said it. Should she be in our group? And I was like, fine. Anyhow.
Now you love me.
And that very first meeting, I'm like, oh, this girl's really nice.
Yeah, I know.
And now we're great friends.
I know. We actually are.
I know. We have entrepreneurial combos.
And dinner. We go for dinner.
Yeah.
We went for dinner. We used to go for dinner.
Just goes to show you really don't, you can't judge a book by its cover. You don't know you don't know.
And usually the people that you don't like are the people that are most like you.
Oh, interesting. Yes.
Interesting.
Yeah. That happened with me and my best friend. I hated her when we first met. She hated me, and now we're best friends for 10 years now.
So guys, if you're listening, if there's someone you hate, they're going to be best friends.
Yeah. Like you.
Yeah.
I feel like you're very similar to me.
I didn't know anything about you. I thought you.
Yeah.
To be fair.
And now she's left both of us.
Now she left you. Karma's bitch. No,
I know.
I'm joking. That's not nice to say.
It's true. Karma is a bitch.
Anyway.
Okay. But you know what, though? When I hired her, we didn't really have a process in place. And, to like full circle because now we have a process. And now that she's not with me, I'm actually like, when she said she was leaving, it was hard. But because we had a process in place since hiring her, it's been like pretty smooth sailings. I mean, there were obviously rocky points, but like the team was able to handle her leaving when she left. Same with like right now we're in a situation, again, back to process, where Kelly is going back to Ireland.
Oh.
It's really sad. We're really sad about it. Kelly is our experience specialist at the Collective. She's been here with us for about 8 months. She moved here from Ireland with her sister temporarily just for a year. And her mom is like, you know, with COVID, her mom's very lonely and like they're going back a little bit early. But with Kelly, she was able to move into that position and we are now prepping to put a new person in that position. But now we have like actual process as to how do you open this? How do you do this? How do you set up this? How do you
set up the podcast? I don't know.
Podcast, right?
We'll have to train the newbie.
Yes,
now we know.
But now we know. So I mean, those things we implemented with the Collective, but it took years before we really implemented it with Carriage Lane. So the Collective, we actually built it when we built it differently than how we were able to build Carriage Lane, and now we had so much more information and so much more understanding of like how simplistic it can become if you were to put that time in ahead of time.
You need those repeatable systems.
Yeah, 100%.
I feel like this is a great time to just ask both of you to share. You know, I know you both have really ironed down companies right now, which is why I love having you on the.
Well, I was just going to say,
nothing's ever ironed
it's always a work in process.
It's like, it's pretty set though. You guys are really killing it. And I think that to the outside world, it can look like this unachievable thing. Like wow, look at Carriage Lane. Look at Jessica Kelly Design. Look at the projects they're doing. They have a Carriage Lane now, the Collective. They have all these employees. Like I can't imagine ever getting there. Maybe shed some light on what the early days were like for you both, because I can imagine they weren't like they are right now.
Well, I mean, I'll say that for me, starting at a smaller scale sort of helped, you know, starting with male bachelor pads and small spaces kind of allowed me to get my footing. And, you know, I came from a marketing background where I worked for other people, and I didn't go out of that position to work for another design firm. So I feel like I was always recreating the wheel instead of following it. And I never worked for a firm, so I didn't know what processes were, and I didn't know what systems were, so I always feel like it took me longer to get my footing as far as proper processes and proper structure. Because I don't know about you guys, but as a creative person, I feel like we're all over the place. But what we really do is crave a system or a procedure to follow, and you know, hence our pricing model. We have a pretty structured flat fee pricing model, which has really helped my business.
What about you, Carly?
What was the question?
Actually, before you, I'll repeat it a sec. I just want to comment on what Jessie was saying because it's so interesting. Everyone has a different path. So you came and you went out on your own right away.
I did. I didn't want to work for someone else because it was what I didn't like about that industry. So I was ready to make mistakes, but only be responsible for myself for them instead of having someone else yell at me for the mistakes. You know what I mean?
Just yell at yourself.
Yeah, exactly.
But you know, that's so the opposite of me because I worked for someone for many years, and I got yelled at for my mistakes by someone else. But it's interesting because I came out of that experience when I started my own business feeling completely directionless and like I had no idea what I was doing, even though I'd had that experience. So it's interesting to see like the two of us coming from a different starting point, still struggling with those things. It's not as though anyone has it figured out.
Same time though, I'm thinking back on, like I worked for a few design firms and they obviously had some, I think, had processes, some didn't. But the thing is, if you're an employee, then typically if you're working for a firm that has process, you don't necessarily know what all the processes are because you just know what you're supposed to be doing, which actually makes sense if you're working in a larger firm. You're only a cog in the wheel, right? Like there's all these different cogs that now come together, roll on its own. So I didn't understand what that was. They don't teach you at design school. Maybe they teach you at business school, but I highly doubt it. And I think that you need to see the bigger picture. And as you're an employee, you don't see the big picture. You just see what's like present and sometimes past, depending on how long you've been working somewhere. You don't have the bigger picture like an entrepreneur would as in terms of future. So the thing is, like, you can't expect an employee to think of like what are the future issues that can come up because they're just living in the present.
Yeah, and I think you're right. Like if you work as an employee for a company that has set systems and processes, you almost take it for granted because you don't really know what chaos is. You don't know otherwise. You just go and you do your job. And so I think that when you've had that experience, sometimes it could be a disservice then starting on your own. I don't know if this was your experience,
100%.
but you're like, oh, I just do this job. And then you go out on your own. You're like, oh my God, there's so much more to this than I realized.
Yeah. And you wear all hats. And then you learn what all the roles are. And then you can have the ability to create that process.
Yeah. I know for me, it was chaos for a really long time, which was why I was so grateful to have Jessie as my like designer bestie, because I mean, I had no freaking clue what I was doing. And I'd worked for a designer for 5 years and I'd been in television on 2 seasons of shows. And yet running your own business, like you say, you wear so many more hats. Yeah. And I remember just feeling like there's got to be a better way. Like I just remember this feeling of like anxiety and overwhelm when I would get so busy and I couldn't, like I had a million to-do lists, like a million, like I like to be organized. And like Jessie just said, I think even though we're creatives, we do crave structure in a way. It's like, I want to be creative, but within this parameter. And I know that for me, since, well, Jessie and I, we can tell, but like we both kind of adapted the business of design process at the same time. And we saw immediately how having set ways of doing things was, at least for me, like really freed me up to be more creative.
Yeah. Yeah, because it gets rid of your anxieties as to like, what is next? And what should I tell the client now? And how do I address this issue? And how, so that anxiety builds on itself and that creates its own beast. Whereas like you can, you know, if you know exactly what happens next, the client knows exactly what happens next and there's less guessing and less like feeling overwhelmed. Yeah. Right. So like you have those banked emails, right? Which is such a great idea because then you just send it. They know what the next step is. They see it clear. They'll ask a million times anyways, but at least you've already done, it's just a dance. You're just doing a dance, same steps every time. Sometimes you're injured and you have to hop a little bit. I don't know. This is going off in a tangent.
And let me just jump in there and add to that and say that like you mentioned those like banked or canned emails or phone calls or whatever you might do with a client. The idea I think is like anticipating what's coming next. Yeah. And I think until I had a set repeatable process, I wasn't really able to do that because I was always playing catch up.
Which is what happened with Lauren. Sorry.
Edit out.
Edit out.
Which is what happened with all of the people who worked for me for several years.
Yeah, I sent someone to like medical leave. Well, my first employee, they left me because they had such anxiety.
Oh my God.
Yeah. Yeah.
The things you find out about your designer besties on a podcast.
Yeah, right. I'm glad I don't work for Carly.
That's what happened. And I was like, Rocco and I was like, what? Like, this is normal. Like, this is all the stuff you have to, like, and we have to deal with. And I mean, the majority was the client that was, like, really angry because the system or they're just a difficult client. But, like, she left because it was anxiety. It was a high-paced position. She doesn't know what comes next. She doesn't know when she's going to get in trouble. She doesn't know what she did right or did wrong. And
she
so like,
doesn't know how to make you happy because she doesn't even know what you need or expect from her.
So process is key.
Yeah. Now that I'm thinking back, I'm like, someone else did leave me because of health things and there was too much stress in their life. And I think maybe I induced a little bit of that. Oh my goodness. Yeah. Okay. Well, I think that what is interesting to me is this isn't just for designers. Honestly, I know we're all designers, so we're talking about that, but I think any entrepreneur, and I think what happens is we hire people or we bring people on or freelance or whatever, and we want them to behave the way we do as the business owner and entrepreneur, and we know the stakes are high, and we know you got to juggle all these hats, so you just do, and you push through, and you stay up late, and you do all the things, but I think it's a lot to expect that of an employee.
Right. But also we worked on TV.
Right. Where there's like multiple medical leaves happening on a daily basis.
Yeah. And you either have the stomach for it or you don't.
True.
That's what makes us leaders.
That's a whole other podcast, girl.
I forgot about that relationship that you and I had through TV.
Oh my God, we did. We worked on income property together.
You forgot to mention that.
I did.
Because we kind of blocked it out of our, we blocked that stress out of our.
That was fun though. I really enjoyed because we did income property on vacation, which for me, like to do cottages is my ultimate dream. Like if I could just do cottages in like Massachusetts or something, I would. I know. Carly knows that. We'll share that story later. But you're right. And Jessie, you were the girl in charge, man.
Oh,
you were
well, I had a different role. I had a project management role.
Okay, that's a stressful role.
That's so stressful.
Yeah.
I think your job was more stressful than mine.
Yeah, because you had to make like shit.
Well, and I kind of got thrown in. I mean, I think there was supposed to be another position and then someone else left. And anyways, it was a great experience. And I got to meet a lot of designers and you and I got closer. And
it was fun. Yeah, totally fun. All right. So I'd like us to sort of pivot now because the reason I think you are both really perfect for this podcast episode is to talk about how you both have very unique processes now. You have a unique way of running your business, of presenting to clients, of collecting fees. I know when I first met you, Carly, and I thought you, had it nailed down. Obviously, that's what I still think. But I remember being so intrigued by how you onboard your clients and can you share with everyone your process? So
when a client comes through either our website or a referral or a repeat client, we do a 20-minute to 30-minute discovery call. So it's just understanding what their scope of work is, what their budget is, what their timeline is, a little bit about, them, and then we talk about our process. And that way they understand the timelines, they understand if it's a realistic budget, because if it isn't, then we're not really a match and it's a waste of our time. Once we're both happy with like that conversation, then we set up a consultation in person. That consultation would be about 2 hours. And because we're a design build, we'll go into the space, we'll take general oversized measurements of the home. We'll talk to them about what their scope is in person so we can understand accessibility into the house. If it's an addition, will we have to take down a fence? Will we have to take a crane in? Or do we have to hand dig the addition or bring in equipment?
And do you charge for that consultation?
We do charge for that consultation. We're increasing our rates, though.
Good.
But what we're going to do, though, is actually I'll talk about it after, but we're going to do like a timeline so that people come in within the timeline. Then we're going to charge them the original rate. And then after that date, the price will go up.
That's brilliant.
So we're going to weed out because right now the industry is crazy. Mm-hmm. And like you had said in your newsletter today, that like it's really peaks and valleys, right? It's feast or famine. So right now we have to make sure our process is so strong so that we don't become bottlenecked with projects. And then all of a sudden we have way too many construction projects, not enough material and not enough like time to actually build it.
Oh my God. I want to put a pin on that because I want us to circle back to that because that's what's happening. It's really present. I think most designers are dealing with that. Let's go circle back to that feast or famine because I think it's an important discussion. But continue on your process because I want to hear because I love it. It's so different. I know you're like, what is just how I do my business? It's not the same
really?
though. No.
So we have the consultation. We have a presentation that we go through with them as to like what does the different phases look like visually, so they have a touch point to.
Actually, I learned that from you, and I think I shared that with my Momentum members because I created Carly in our meeting. Like a year ago, showed us this. You brought out your iPad. You're like, I have this little visual PowerPoint presentation that I show to my clients in a consultation, which is basically, here's what it looks like to work with us. This is our process. Here's an example of a floor plan. Here's an example of a space, a rendering, whatever. And I was like, that is so brilliant. And I've adapted that. Good. And I love it.
Yeah, people love it, especially seeing the process and then before and the after.
And it's visual, right? Because otherwise in a consultation, I felt like I was a talking head all the time.
Yeah.
And I had paperwork, and it's a lot of information.
Well, and when you're charging for the consultation, you want them to feel like they're getting value out of it too, right?
Yeah. Totally.
Yeah, so we come out, we do the site, we do a general measure, we talk to the clients, we understand what their needs are, and then we put together a scope of work, right? So because we're a construction and design firm, we'll then present a few weeks later a soft quote just to see, okay, are we on the same page, like based on what our costs are, and a fixed design fee, as well as a architectural fee.
Holy cow. You give them all of that.
Like a fixed fee.
So, but you also have a full detailed construction quote.
Yeah, we do.
And how much do you charge for a consultation?
I don't even want to say it's embarrassing.
Come on, girl.
Oh my gosh, you're putting me on the spot.
I'm not offering that much value. That's a lot of value.
But I know but my problem is because we're a construction firm, that's where we have a hard time because we may invest, 15 hours, but the payoff could be anywhere between, 300,000 to 1.2 million. Mm-hmm. So it's worth it because that way I've captured the client, they've come through, they're usually a referral or like we could charge, but then is it worth that $300 to lose that $1 million worth of work?
But at the same time, well, you know how I feel about this. I think you should
know.
charge more. But at the same time, and I'm sure Jessie would agree, that to me has been instrumental since I raised my consultation fee in weeding out the tire kickers, the people like, what's $300?
That's what the discovery
If
call
I can afford it, I'm not charging enough.
I know.
Because I am not my client.
I know.
Yeah.
But some of our clients though, like, I don't know. Like the thing is our closing rate, I would say it used to be like 70, 80%. We had an amazing closing rate. Now because we have so many more inquiries, now our closing rate, I would say, is 50, 40%. But again, to put in that, because honestly, if I charged what it was worth, it would be like $3,000.
Yeah.
I can say like it's $3,000, but then I'll put it back into the overall quote. But
even the fact that you charge is good. I think there's probably some people listening here who are in construction or are part of design build and they may not be charging.
they don't charge.
I've had people ask me in the designer meetups who have joined forces with contractors and they're doing this thing and they don't feel like they can charge because of construction, kind of like what you said, but people will pay for it.
People will pay for it, but I think some of them aren't surprised. Some of them are overwhelmed with the price, and then those people are just not our clients.
Yeah.
But yeah, we definitely have to raise our rates.
What's the next step? So what happens? You present the proposal and they're like, we love you, let's go.
So we present the soft quote. There's usually like a little bit back and forth because they may be, okay, like it came in higher than we expected. Mm-hmm. What can we pull off? Or I'm comfortable with the numbers. Like obviously we know it's going to change once all the final design is completed. So let's move forward. So we take a 5% construction hold. So 5% of the soft quote. So that guarantees that like we're working together. We have that money. It's not refundable. We're working towards an August start or an April start. And we know that we've now blocked in that client. So now we can work backwards.
I love that.
Right? So with the contractors, you don't know when you can start if they're an outside firm, right? Because you'd be like, we'll start in April, but now you have to find someone who has that time schedule. So we're able to make that commitment right away. And
I was thinking about that the other night, actually. I was thinking about you and how you get a deposit. And I was wondering about that. Is it refundable? So it's non-refundable.
No, non-refundable.
Because I was wondering even for us, because we're getting, like you say, so many inquiries and you want to be able to fill that pipeline. Mm-hmm. And I had a consultation this week and they said, we're thinking we want to do the reno in the spring. And like, that's really great, but wouldn't even be greater if I could get them to commit by giving me a deposit. And then I know that I've got that job lined up.
Yeah. So, I mean, things do change. Like, obviously, with COVID, we had 8 projects that got pushed till next spring, which is going to be an issue. So, some people are going to have to understand that, like, they're going to have to not be as selective as when we can start their project. But that means, though, then that this whole summer, we were dry. Mm-hmm. Right?
Feast or famine.
Feast or famine. But now we have, like, projects starting to start up in construction now, which is great. But we needed that landing of like 4 months where there was nothing that we weren't working on anything. Mm-hmm. Right. So that happens. So we present the soft quote after we present the soft quote and they want to move forward. We take the 5% construction hold. We do a 50% retainer for design fees. And then we start our phase 1 process. So we have 5 phases. We have phase 1, which is plans and inspiration. So we do we call our deep cleanse meeting with the homeowner, understand like measure the space out, bring the architectural designer in.
Sorry, when you say you take 50% of the design fee, is the design fee as quoted for the entire project and all the way until the very end?
It's quoted for the first five stages,
Okay.
but we don't take the last phase, fifth stage, which is implementation, until we start the actual construction project.
Okay. Sorry, keep going.
Yeah.
I'm just curious because I know everyone's thinking that. They're like, wait, you could deposit on the design fee, but what's the design fee cover?
Yeah, so the design fee covers the plans, inspirations, the elevations, and material selections with the prices. It includes all the working drawings, and it includes the like all the furniture selections, which is our phase 4. And then once they pay for the 50% deposit, and then the second is the 50% deposit after a phase 2 presentation. And then at phase 5 is when they pay that fee, and that goes into starting to order all the materials, managing the orders, managing the guys on site, being the communication between the homeowner, our team, and the construction team, because we're not always the contractor, right? We work with, because there's only so many projects we can take on construction wise annually, and then the other projects we are able to work with outside contractors.
So when you present to your clients, are you doing, I think I know the answer to this, but like I do, I just go to the house, get all the information, and then several weeks later, I present the entire project. You're not doing it that way. You're presenting it in phases.
We do. We present phase 1, which is the plans inspiration. So we just want to make sure that the plans we're happy with, what we want to do, the architect can actually implement.
Which, if I could say, works so much better, I think, when you're doing a really large project.
Because we don't even know if we can go to, we have to go to zoning still.
Yeah.
Can we even do this? Right? We don't want to get so ahead that we have to redesign everything.
Exactly.
Right? So when we do additions, we might have to bring it in 10 feet or bring it out 4 feet. We'll see.
So you do the architectural plans or the floor
simultaneously.
plans initially.
But that is still a fixed fee, though.
Yeah.
Yeah. And your architectural designer works with that fixed fee, or
unless we come to the table and we're like, okay, we actually want to take out way more than what we expected,
right?
It'll increase his fee.
Okay.
Yeah, because it's based on engineering fees as well, right?
Right.
So the more beams you take out, low bearing walls you take out, the more expensive it'll be.
And do you break all of those costs out
just
for them?
part.
They just
the design costs and architectural costs,
and that's what the client sees.
No, the client also sees the engineering fee.
Okay.
Yeah.
But how do you get the architectural designer to quote just after the consultation? You already know the scope of work, and that's enough to
general scope of work.
Okay.
So then if it changes, then his fee will increase. It says on his paperwork.
Right.
I find architectural designers' fees fairly straightforward.
Yeah.
They're all, most of the ones that I've worked with are fixed fees.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Unless you start taking out windows and increasing them, and it's pretty straightforward.
Actually, this is a good conversation to have because I know a lot of designers think, well, I don't know, do I need to hire an architect? Should my client get an architect? How does that work? And I know I used to be very confused with how that worked. And until you start working on bigger jobs where you need an architect, you don't think about it, right? Mm-hmm. But I think what I'm taking away from this conversation that I've also done, thanks to Jessie, actually, she referred me to her architectural designer, is you don't need to hire an architectural firm necessarily if you're doing a renovation, but you want to bring in an architectural technologist or designer who can do the permit drawings, who can stamp, who can get the engineer, and they can manage that side of things. And that's what we do too.
Some of them, they design too.
Yeah.
They design and they can stamp for small buildings.
It used to be I guess because when I worked in television, we were submitting our own permits. It was so crazy. A couple of times I did it for clients on our own, our Rebecca Hay Designs. And it was so time consuming because that wasn't something we did every day.
Yeah.
And
they also have all the connections at the city too, right?
Yeah, no, I unless you're that's your thing and you love doing that, I don't recommend doing that. Hire someone.
Yeah, I remember that was a stressful time when we did our own permits.
Yeah, I mean, that was crazy. That's the Wild West.
That was the Wild West.
Yeah.
That was the Wild West.
Okay, so then you present concept after that, you said?
Yes, we present the inspirations and the plans. So we're making sure that the homeowners as well as and us are on the same page aesthetically, and the plans, because the plans always go back and forth a few times, right? and we accommodate for one round of revisions. Anything more, we charge them by the hour. So it really gives them to like focus in on what are the changes they want to make so that we don't have to keep billing them, right? Once we're happy and that phase is complete, then we move on to phase 2. Phase 2 is where we now do what you do. So we then pull everything, like accessories, lighting, plumbing fixtures, appliances, and we do the elevations and re-render them. And then that's when we present them, up to 2 options for every item. We do it all in-house. I mean, in terms of like the full home, we ask for 6 to 8 weeks of time in between phase 1 meeting, phase 2 meeting. And we present everything with the prices. So now when we're showing them tile, we're not showing them tile, then finding out if it's available, and then finding out it's at $100 a square foot. It's like, this is the tile, it's $7 a square foot, it's available, it takes 2 to 4 weeks to get, there's stock, right? Otherwise, you're just going to be constantly redesigning, and then you're going to show them, and they're going to find the price, then you're going to have to reselect, and it's just you're just in a cage.
So would the cost of that tile have been accounted for within the soft quote?
Yes.
Where you've had an allowance that was like, what if the allowance was $5 a square foot for tile?
So that's why we tell them the price, so that they know that we price for $5. This is $10. This is $20.
Right.
So they're really at the forefront of their budget, right? So that way, like if they don't say to us, well, why'd you show us marble? Because it's too expensive. But we could have upped it, right? So we design based on aesthetic and based on their budget. Obviously, we always tell our clients expect 10 to 20% overage, either up or down when we do our hard quote.
Down. I mean, does that ever happen?
I was just going to say, has that ever happened?
If they pull things out.
Don't give them false hope.
If they pull things out. No, we've had people like go down in the price because we took out
they remove areas from the scope.
Or like we expect to do the whole room in tile, then we just do a feature wall. Or we expect to do $20 in backsplash tile and it's $5. So it's just like it goes up and down in different categories.
But that's the beauty of presenting the budget at the same time as the presentation, because then it's like, well, you have to have that $300 trim.
Yeah, and they're able to make those decisions up front.
Right?
Obviously. I mean, this room is not complete without the $600 pillow.
Well, we don't do this with furniture. Furniture there's no soft quote for furniture.
So when does the furniture come in?
So furniture is phase 4. So after we've designed all the products, usually our projects are a year long, anywhere between 6 months to a year. So we're not going to order furniture 3 months in, and then we have to keep it.
Although right now you probably should, because everything is back ordered for a year. Maybe not a year, but
even local stuff.
I don't know. It's just bad.
Because maybe that'll promote people to buy local.
Custom, not custom, obviously.
Well, maybe that's people will pay more to have it done
I
locally.
hope they do.
I know.
Yeah.
Because unless
Support
their frames
local.
aren't available. But anyways.
Okay, interesting. So you'll get rolling on construction before presenting the furniture?
Yeah, because usually by the time we're priced all the materials, they now know, like, I'm not going to show them now like a $30,000 couch if they're now $20,000 or $100,000 over budget.
I know, but this is I like what you do, but here's my hesitation with that is I like to pick everything because it's a give and take, like you say. So I don't want to blow the budget on construction because that's not my realm, right?
I see what you're saying.
And so I don't want to blow the budget on this crazy, amazing, I don't know, I'm just making something up, tile, like you said, tile floor, let's say, in the entry. But now we don't have money for that incredible mirror that I think actually makes a bigger impact than the tile, let's say. And so for me, and maybe that's because I'm not a design build firm, but I'm trying to balance the budget that way so that I can overall get the best impact. Obviously you are too, but sometimes I will lean more towards the furnishing side than the construction side.
Yeah, so I gravitate to hard finishes.
Yeah, and maybe that's just like a personal, like I love my soft finishes and furnishing, and if I could just decorate, probably I would.
So if I could just do hard surfaces, I would.
We should just team up then.
I know.
I'll just come in style.
Like, it's fun.
Oh my God, we have the trifecta of the design world here. Carly does all the hard finishes, all the architectural. I'll come and do the furnishings, and then Jessie can come in style.
But I mean, who's kidding who? Like, if you don't have all those 3 elements in a job, then it's doesn't feel complete.
Exactly.
Right?
Exactly.
And that's why there is that pull, because you could do a beautiful construction job, and that's happened to me before, but the clients run out of money and I don't feel like I can photograph it because it haven't been styled or furnished properly, right? Because, you know, they're either A, sick of seeing you in their house, or B, they have run out of money.
Or they then go 3 months later and buy themselves a sofa that
From West Elm.
is not something that is healthy for their home.
Yeah.
And is also not what you would pick.
Yeah.
So then you don't photograph it. Or
Yeah.
you're like, maybe I should prop in a sofa, but that's crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Never thought about it like that. Yeah. Yeah, because we it's so much, because also so much easier to pick hard surfaces than it is to pick soft furnishing.
Oh, says who?
I think that's just a personal preference.
Yeah.
So I think there's going to be a lot of designers listening that prefer one or the other.
Totally.
Right? And they don't want to deal with furnishings because it's such a guessing game, and I find there's like a million styles of couches, but with tile, like you have 3 companies that you go to, and like you'll find something.
But it depends you're right. It depends on the designer, because some people might say, oh my God, there's like endless options for tile, but I know what kind of sofa I like. I know what combination.
So you gravitate to that, and I gravitate. Yeah.
I don't know. This is a good conversation,
It is a
though.
good conversation.
Yeah,
So
totally.
I have friends in the design industry who hate touching soft furnishings.
Really?
They just get like have anxiety about it because there's just so many variables, and you have to deal with shipping, you have to deal with freight,
Yeah.
you have to deal with like something comes and it's damaged. Like what do you do? Like you can't lean on anyone.
There's more you take on more responsibility than if you're just a designer who meets with a builder, specifies everything, but doesn't purchase anything. I mean, I would sleep really well at night if that's all I did. Maybe I should change my business model. I wouldn't wake up in the middle of the night and be like, the sofa, it's pilling. Shoot, did we call that company? Are they
that's the
coming?
thing.
Like, we're dealing with that right now. We're having to replace and recover in 2 sofas because the fabric is pilling, and it was an upholstery grade fabric from like a big fabric supplier.
They should cover that for you.
They are covering it, but it's the time that it takes to coordinate a year after the job has been completed. And now the inconvenience to my clients who will be without a sofa, and maybe we can get the company to rent one, I'm not sure. But it's just it's that icky
happened to us with,
No, but you still have deficiencies.
and it still costs me money in my team's time.
I mean, technically, that's what I say our project management fee pays for, right? Is to have to deal with those little things. I mean, a year later, you've probably already,
We've spent all that money.
yeah.
Okay, let's. I want to hear Jessie's. Is there anything we're missing about your process before we hear Jessie's process?
I mean, I think, part of our process is also, at the end, once we present them all the hard costs, is put together a payment plan for them and a construction schedule so that they feel confident as to when we're hitting milestones, that milestone is reflective of the payment plan. Because people always ask, like, okay, how many payments do you typically do? Because if we're invoicing someone $1 million or $500,000 or $100,000,
Do you outline that in your contract?
Yeah.
Yeah. So go over. So you have your phase 1 is your initial plans,
inspirations.
and inspirations.
Yeah. Once they sign off on that and we're all happy with it, with one round of revisions included, move on to phase 2.
Okay, and then phase 2 is
Materials and elevations.
okay, and phase 3
Phase 3 is all final drawings,
final drawings. Phase 4 is
furnishings.
phase 4 is furnishing.
Yeah, we do
That's what I was
furnishings after.
missing.
Yeah,
okay.
we do furnishings after all the hard construction, just because, like, Rebecca does it at phase 2. You would do it at phase 2.
Phase 2 is when we do all of the design.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But like, what if
Including
they
the
want
furniture.
major changes made?
To what?
What if they're like, I don't like this plan. I got one. I want 2 different layouts.
That's when there
Hold
are
up.
revisions.
Hold up, girl. We're taking our turns. Okay, I think it's Jessie's turn now. Let's hear her process, because I think hers is still very similar to mine. And I think that might answer your question.
So yes, my process is very similar to yours, Rebecca. We start with an initial discovery call, which is very similar to yours, Carly. Just find out about the budget, the scope of the project. We explain how our process works. And then we just get a sense of whether or not, there's any red flags there from that initial call. It's usually about a 20 to 25 minute call. And then we set up the consultation, which I charge $5.50 for. Am I allowed to say the price on
Yeah,
this?
please. No, please do. I think people really appreciate,
I know, I
designers
haven't
are
said my
listening,
price
nod your
yet.
head. What was yours?
So we don't charge it. Oh, I hate saying it.
Why?
No,
Because
I'm
you
just
know
like,
why? Here we go. This is the psychologist in me.
Yeah.
You hate saying it because you know you're not charging
I
enough.
know.
Exactly.
So tell us.
Okay, I only charge $300.
Okay. You're not charging enough.
I know.
I know. That's okay though. There's only room
That's
to
why
go
we're
up.
here. It's just to
I know. It's so scary.
We'll remind you every week. I'll send you a text
Okay,
message
fine.
every Monday morning. Did you up it yet?
You're right. You have to do
Okay.
it.
So Jessie, you charge, what did you say, $5.50?
$5.50.
Okay.
Yeah. So at the consultation, and we do try to, we bring value to the consultation so that it's not just a meeting between the two of us. I always have this huge guilt factor when I walk out of the consultation and just feel like it was more of a gab fest between me and but usually those are the ones that end up going really well and they hire us anyways because, and they accept the fact that you charge for your consultation. Anyways, at the consultation, we get to know the scope of the project. We talk about what's going to work. I go through our process in quite a bit more detail. And then, unlike Rebecca, I like to go home and figure out what the fee for the next phase of the project is going to be. So the next phase, we call this our research, design, and presentation phase. So it's really just the design portion of the project. I like to, like I say, go back to the office, figure out how many hours I think it's going to take me, because it's a big deal. I can't do it on the spot.
You know what? I'll just jump in and say I've stopped doing that.
Okay.
I did enjoy doing it. I used to, for those who are listening, I used to tell them the fixed fee for the design phase, like right there in the consultation.
Because you do square footage.
I do based on a square footage. I would take some measurements, and then I kind of would have an idea going into it. What I liked about it is I didn't spend or waste any hours after the consultation thinking about it, and I could judge the reaction in person. However, I've realized now that that's not really scalable. So for me, I'm trying to work myself out of my business. So if it's reliant on me to be at every consultation to tell the price every single time, then I'm not able to kind of train a designer to do that. It's really hard to do.
Yeah.
So I'm now doing a little bit like what you do.
Okay. I mean, as long as you can turn it around fairly quickly, then I just like to do the due diligence of I'll take, if it's on a Wednesday, say I would have it to them by the Monday kind of thing.
Okay.
I mean, I would like to get quicker at it as I try to, hand off more responsibilities of the firm to other people and have more time to spend on working on the business, then, I would like to be able to turn it around, say, in like a day or two, so it's still fresh in their mind. So fixed fee for the next phase of the project, which is research, design, and presentation. We do all the design work up front. So, if we're doing a kitchen, that's the kitchen cabinetry. We have examples of the hardware. We have examples of the paint, all of the furnishings, all of the floor plans, all of the elevations. We do one-dimensional renderings. If a client asks us for 3D, we would do it. We will have our kitchen company do it for kitchens, but we don't produce 3D renderings unless the client asks for it and they want to pay more.
Do you guys do 3D, Carly?
Not unless they pay for it.
Yeah.
But I'd love to do it as like a staple. It's just, I don't know. It's just something I don't.
I do think that there is value for some clients that just have a really hard time visualizing things. I have had clients that, when things get installed, they say, oh, wow, I didn't know it was going to look like this. And they just are very rigid in wanting to have a certain look and don't have any imagination. And I have gone back to think that, maybe would have.
Do you think that our like elevations for us was like the thing to do, but now do you think it's going to be only 3D?
I think the industry is moving towards that. I see other designers that are doing
It's
it
like a
all the
staple.
time, and
Yeah,
they
I
have
know.
people in house that can
I
do it
know.
really quickly. I don't
Not
have
that
people.
quick though. I've been asking.
It's not.
that
It's not
No.
that quick.
Even when they have it in house, it's like still 20 hours. But
I have outsourced it before.
Yeah.
But you need time. And the challenge with outsourcing, in my opinion, even though I think that is the answer when you're starting out, is that you have to have all the design decisions made so that you can give those decisions to the other person, and then they need their time to render.
Yes.
So there isn't that same if there's someone in house, they can be working on it as you're developing the design scheme. But I have to tell you, it makes your presentation like really impressive.
Impressive. And then people will just see it and then they're just like comfortable. They have way easier time understanding it. And I think that 2-dimensional renderings will be grandmas.
Yeah. Unless I think you're like one of the top, like there's some designers out there that are.
Still hand render, like Paul Vanel hand render.
Yeah, exactly.
It's like a piece of art.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, same with
People
Phil
like-
Mitchell. And
Yeah. Oh, yeah. He's so good. I love him.
Even my husband hand renders. He'll do like the exterior drawing, all hand rendered.
Wow.
Yeah, it's so beautiful because it's an art.
They still
right?
have people at Gluckstein that do that too,
Yeah, totally.
and
Interesting.
draftsmen. And
Interesting. Okay. Carry
so
on.
within the presentation, our fixed fee also outlines a super detailed budget. So everything we present, there's a price tag that associates with that, right down to, we get very specific. So right down to say like the nail head on the sofa or the trim around the cushion or so the client can look at the total number and decide what's worth it to them and get the big picture. And then within our fixed fee, we allow for 1 round of revisions. We usually give the client about a week to go back and make.
What happens if they haven't come back in a week?
We put the pressure on them because we've reserved everything.
Yeah, it's
we've
fresh in your mind.
If it's fresh in our mind, we've given them a loose construction schedule. And we kind of put the pressure on them saying, if you don't get back to us, we're going to lose this timeline.
And then do you say to them, if I have to reselect, it's going to cost you?
Exactly. Yeah.
Do you get pushback on that?
A little bit. I have had pushback on it. But again, I've learned that, in the contract, I'm outlining like these prices are only good for X amount of time.
Especially now with COVID.
Exactly.
Which is actually, I think, like, it's so nice to say to clients, it's going to take
The
6
COVID
days,
excuse.
but COVID could delay.
Yeah.
I have no
Sorry,
control
I have
over
no
it. I have no
control.
control over the budget either. Prices just keep going up.
Yeah. But that's actually
It
true.
is true. I actually had to say that in my consultation this week. I
And
was
now
like,
you're not
"Ask
put on
them."
the hook.
Yeah.
Don't use it as an excuse. We had our team tea, it was a couple weeks ago, and Claudia in our office, we go through like what are the issues facing our organization, and one of them, there's lots of issues, but the one that she brought up, which was interesting, she's like the COVID excuse. I'm like, I don't feel like we've been using that. She's like, no, but everyone's using it. And I'm so sick of it. I'm sick of going to Zara and not being able to try on clothes.
Oh, I know.
Because they're like, oh, we can't use the change rooms because of COVID. And she's like, it's because you just don't want to fold the clothes and put them back. I'm like, yes, you're right.
Yeah, we ordered Uber the other day and they wouldn't bring it upstairs because they're like, it's COVID.
What? My Uber brings ours upstairs.
I know, but this guy was using it as an excuse.
Yeah. Anyhow.
Yeah.
Question about your revisions, actually. I think that's interesting because I've never done that. I've never told a client, we have, let's say, the fabric on hold for 2 weeks. And after that time, it could be gone. And if I have to reselect, it will be an hourly charge. Do you say that? I mean,
I haven't had to yet. I haven't had to yet.
Oh, I say it all the time now.
Okay.
So freeing.
Does it work?
Oh my gosh. One of our clients actually recently, because we're doing a doctor's clinic, and the job just got extended by a freaking year.
I remember you posting about that last
Yeah.
year. It's going to be so cool.
It's going to be beautiful, but the contractor is just like taking his time. Like he's on like Newfoundland time.
COVID.
Yeah. Like it was supposed to be done now. We're supposed to be furnishing it now. So with those clients, we had them come in and we presented them the furniture budget for everything. And we're like, you need to make decisions now because if we have to reselect everything, we're charging you. And they're like, okay. can we just talk about the elephant in the room? Like, what's the elephant? They're like, the fact that you're going to charge us more. I'm like, that's not an elephant. Like, that's just how our business works. Gosh.
I have to say though, like the revisions, because our process is pretty much the same, but I struggle with getting them. Like we're still waiting to hear back from a client we presented last week. She's like, oh, I'll have a response to you by Monday. Sure, Monday came and went.
Yeah, no.
And often it takes longer than 2 weeks, even though I tell them in the consultation.
Yeah.
Like I repeat shit all the time. I'm like,
yeah.
in the consultation, we tell them again in an email prior to the presentation. We tell them in the presentation that we'd like to hear back from them within a week, we say, up to 2 weeks, so that it's fresh. And, I'm very polite and nice about it. But it's people, I think, get back to their busy lives and it's not a priority. So I think you're right. You have to be firm with them. You have to remind them. You have to connect with them.
Yeah, because then why is it your fault now? You have to reselect and like that fabric is not available anymore. Now you have to go to like 3 new shops to find that, or that tile or that vanity is no longer available. And then there's like that window.
Yeah, especially now.
And then so now it's on your time that you have to reselect everything. So that's why we try to push back as much as possible. And some people are great, and some people it's just not how they work. They take.
Do you guys find that your clients though essentially know what the revisions are at the meeting? Like for the most part.
Yeah, but some of them they like to take it home, think about it, and then they'll send us like.
So this is something Rebecca taught me though. Never let them take too much home.
I know. Yeah, you can't let them take too much home.
I sound like such a meanie.
No, but it's true though.
Yeah,
you can't take them to a tile store.
I know. Remember when you and I we first started like chit chatting years ago, and you're like, "Well, they still have the fabric sample at their house." I'm like, "They what? You can't leave the fabric sample at your client's house."
I've been ever since you told me about that. I'm very I let them take the physical presentation home, like the paper presentation, and the budget, and then what I do in the follow-up email is email them the budget, and we put links to everything we present so they can go out and shop us, because what we say in the contract, which I think you do, Rebecca, is we share 15% of our trade discount so they can go on and do their own homework and sort of make up their mind about which.
Yeah. That's what I learned with Kimberly.
No, I don't do that. I don't share any discount.
We share.
Oh, you don't share any of your
Not anymore.
Okay.
I did initially because that's what BOD did. And I was like, I'm going to do this. This is great. And it made me feel better about charging more for my fee. But then Marianne, who used to work for me, my office manager, was like, this is crazy. You're not going to make enough money. You can't share your discount. And because like, I'm not a numbers person. I'm just like a really nice girl. And so I never really look at I still am not that great with reviewing my numbers on a regular basis and look at my margins. And like, I have employees, I have overhead. And so I stopped. And you know what I found is I stopped offering to share my discount and nobody asked.
That's good.
Now, from time to time, people will ask, but it's not like a regular occurrence. I have someone right now I have to email back because they asked about we assume you pass on your trade discounts, to which now I will respond and say, no, I'm sorry, we don't. But I don't, that's interesting. You give them the links. I definitely do not do that.
I mean, I'm not trying to hide anything as far as pricing goes. And then what I find is it gives them the knowledge of the product. So if they're, I might provide the finish at the presentation, but I'm not letting them take that home. So maybe they're going online to check, oh, okay, this is like, the sprayer on this faucet is like this or whatever it is. I find that it leaves me less liable because they can go and do their homework on it.
Yeah, I found that we had so much less drama when we just shared the discount. The drama, I'd rather make less money and have less drama.
Yeah.
Because the drama was like, oh, I found it somewhere else and this is what the price is. So what are you gauging me on?
But don't you think that maybe
those are certain clients? Don't get me wrong.
That's not necessarily your ideal client. So maybe the pre-qualifying of that client, let them slip through the cracks.
Good point. Sometimes you don't realize, like, sometimes the craziest clients you don't know until you're in it.
Oh, yeah.
And then all of a sudden, like, their second head pops up.
Yeah.
They're just like, hello, I'm going to make your life miserable.
Sorry about that. Okay, so Jessie, finish telling us about your process. This is so interesting.
So
by the way, I think this is really, really good conversation we're just having, and not even for the podcast.
Good.
About discounts. You can do a whole podcast on, So what we try to sell, I'll take it a step further, on sharing the designer discount. So we only share the trade discounts when you hire us to project manage. Now, most of our clients are going to our third phase, which is the design execution project management phase. But there will be some clients, for example, we did a project last year where we just did the entire design package for them and handed it off to the builder. They didn't feel like they needed to pay 2 project management fees, which I was more than happy to do. And you know what? It was actually a really simple project for me because all I had to do was all of the pretty things and not have to worry about. And they hired me on a consulting basis to do any project management. And that was mostly like tile layout. And there was a couple things here and there that I needed to be on site for. But everything else, was fairly straightforward, and it was a great builder. So now that being said, when they do hire us for project management, we price as a percentage of the budget. So we do it in a tiered phase. So $100,000 is 20%, and then the next $100,000 is 18%. So when you move up to that, when your budget moves up, you're actually not losing money. Because I was finding before when I was doing this, I was losing, $1,000, $2,000 here and there when I was doing a $100,000 budget, and they'd say go to like $110,000. So when you drop down to 18%, then you were losing.
Less money.
Do you get what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. So that's why we do it tiered. And yeah, so those are our 3 phases: initial consultation, research, design, and presentation, and then the design execution. Now, we have had projects where, like I said, they either don't hire us for project management, or we've also had projects where I've altered it a bit where I have not included the revisions in the research, design, and presentation phase. That part is hourly. So if I get a client that's a bit, price conscious and says that they're quick to make decisions, yeah,
Does it take forever?
I roll.
Yeah. Red flag.
But it's actually worked out well for us in a couple cases where we did a flat fee for the design, and then they were comfortable paying our consulting fee to do revisions. And what I liked about that is that there was no arguments when they saw the invoice, because we put it into the contract that the revisions would be billed at an hourly rate. So there was no pushback there.
I think that's interesting because that's a relatively new thing for you. And you've had some really great experience with charging hourly for revisions. And I remember you saying the last time we met, which was probably just last week, you were saying that what you liked about it is like that it puts the ball in their court, and they're not going to give you the runaround on something that's less important because they know they're paying for your time.
Yes.
For the revisions.
Yeah, that being said, you have to really nail down what their likes and what their wish list is and what their, I don't want to say design style, because hopefully they're coming to you because of your style, but you do want to be sure that in that initial phase, we send out a client questionnaire. What's something really interesting that I find really helps with knowing the client's style is asking them what their favorite restaurant or hotel is. Did I tell you about that?
Yeah, I remember you telling me that. It's so smart.
We nailed one presentation, and I just implemented that question. I actually found it on another podcast I listened to, and I found it really helpful. Like one client really loved La Palma, and there's another vegan restaurant that has a similar design aesthetic. And knowing that totally spurred the whole inspiration for the presentation. It actually went really well, and they had very minimal revisions. So
what I like about that question too is it helps you to discern what type of client you're dealing with. Like, is this someone who goes out to dinner? What type of restaurant do they go to? Yeah. Are they going to Earl's, which by the way is great, I used to work there, or are they going to like a fancy downtown spot?
Yeah.
I always ask, what's your favorite furniture store?
Okay. That's a good one too.
You have clients that have like mid-century look, or they want high end, or they have more of like a very like Scandinavian feel, and like you kind of feel like those like are they?
I've seen that on people's intake forms, even saying, "Where was what was the last piece of furniture you bought, and where did you buy it?"
Yeah.
And so someone's like, "Oh, I bought like a custom dining table from
Roche blah blah or whatever.
Exactly." And you're like, "Yep, sign up. You're my client."
I went to Home Sense and I got the most amazing.
Yeah, exactly. The best lamp. It was such a good deal. That's called a red flag, everyone. Don't let them hire you. All right. So because time is ticking away and we only have a couple more minutes, I just kind of want to open up this discussion to talk just in general about how do you find, now it's interesting, like you both, I'm not going to walk through my process right now. I've done it before on the podcast. It's very similar to Jessie's with a few tweaks, but the two of you do things in a nice, repeatable way. That's a way that clients understand that there's the next step. Here's when it happens. Here's when I owe you money. This is how much I'm going to have to pay. How do you think that helps you in business?
It allows you to grow your team. It allows you to position your pipeline properly so that you don't bottleneck. So you know that there's 3 projects in phase 1 and you know what your capacity is, 3 projects in phase 2, et cetera, et cetera. And it allows you to, really look ahead what the next 6 to 8 months are like, right? So you're not just being like, okay, I'll do this in 3 weeks and I'll do this in 8 weeks. Like, the timeline, you know how long it's going to take. You've given yourself some leeway. And you know that at the beginning of that meeting, you know what they're going to be in 8 months. Whereas before, without any process, you're like, I don't know, 3 months, 4 months, 5 months. Like, I can probably do it in 3 weeks.
Of course.
Right?
Yeah.
But then, like, when they see that, like, you're stern on that 6 to 8 weeks, because we never had that before, I'd be like, yeah, sure. Like, for the Property Brothers, we would have 2 weeks to turn around a whole house.
Yeah, but you were working like 10-hour days and didn't have children.
10 hours. Try like 18 hours, and I had no children. I used to like, oh my goodness. I remember like at 11 o'clock at night, I'd be in my office like putting together a scope of work and the price points.
Oh my God, nightmare.
Yeah, we'd meet the
Look
client.
how far we've come.
I know.
Seriously though.
There's someone else doing it. It's great.
Yeah, exactly. What about you say the team? I think that's really interesting because I agree with you. For me, it's been a big game changer is having a process has eliminated that chaos and that like, what do I do? What's my job?
Yeah.
Like poor Alyssa, when she started with me, it was like, come into my house, into the guest bedroom office. And it was like, what are we doing today? And I'm like, here are all the fires we have to put out. Go.
Yeah.
You do that, I'll do this.
Yeah.
There was no clear definition between what her role was, what my role was. I was sometimes invoicing. She was sometimes, it was a freaking disaster.
Yeah. So no one knows what the hand is doing. The left hand doesn't know what the right hand is doing. So having a process is like, oh my gosh, it allowed me to open up the collective. It forced me out of day-to-day with Carriage Lane and forced my team to like do the procedures and like forced me to put down the processes and forced us to, and that had been, we were already on that track. So opening up the collective was like, oh my gosh, like I could walk away. Even now being on mat leave, like I don't need to be in that business. I don't need to see what the fires are because like they have a process. I have a business partner too, which is a huge game changer. But they know how to address that situation. They know what to tell new clients. They know how to like do the discovery call. They know how to put together the scope of work. Like I'm not touching anything right now.
So they're also doing the discovery call?
Yeah.
Ooh, that's like the next frontier for me.
I know.
Ooh, we're going to talk offline about that. I like that.
Yeah, they're doing the discovery call. They have their notes. I got your notes today. Actually, I forwarded to them. Like, if there's anything that we want to add to this.
Awesome.
If
you're listening, you can get my discovery call script, which I've shared, I think we've before, but I like enhanced it as I learned and improve. You can go to RebeccaHay.com/discovery call and you can download it for free.
But the thing is, you think you can't.
I never thought of that. I'm giving all these designers this discovery call script. Why don't I just give it to one of my team members and they can do it? Oh my God.
Oh my God.
I just had a light bulb moment.
I just had like an Oprah moment. Yeah. Give it to even our scope of work. I used to like be the only person who did it. Now I don't even look at it when we present it to clients.
I don't do scope of work anymore. I bring a designer with me to the consultation now. I brought our junior designer this week to the kitchen. It's just a kitchen renovation. And she takes all the notes. We voice record the consultation. consultation so that whoever becomes the design lead, if it's not the person who I bring to the consultation, because that's happened a couple times where I've brought someone and thinking they're going to be the lead, but then projects line up and the timeline doesn't fit. And then it's this sort of awkward, well, someone else is going to be the lead now, but they weren't at the consultation. And you have to cross over all that information. But then they type up the scope of work. You're right. And I don't always look at it in thorough detail. I'm not going to lie.
So Rocco looks at it now.
Oh, there you go. I should get a second person to look it over.
We have to look at it. Because if we present something to the client and it's like off, like, yeah, we'll do your stairs for $3,000. No.
Oh, yeah. The budget stuff. Yeah.
Budget stuff.
Jessie, how about you? How has it sort of changed your business?
I would definitely echo what Carly said. I mean, just to be able to sales forecast and look at your year, in advance is very helpful. I think one of the biggest things for me is having clients that are able to budget for a designer. Before, I was going into it in the dark. Like, was it going to take 20 hours to do a living room, or was it going to take 40 hours, right? And I think now that I have the experience with knowing how much time things are going to take and putting a fixed fee on that, the client knows before even going into the project. So we're very transparent with them, and they can budget for a designer, and then there's no sticker shock, or there might still be sticker shock, but it's at the beginning and it's not at the end of the project when you want all the warm and fuzzies to be there, right? Our design fees are paid 100% upfront.
And do you ever get pushback on that?
From time to time, I will, but honestly, no. And I'm actually really surprised. People don't have, I would get more pushback if it was product or trade that had to be paid 100% upfront. And I think we do 75%. Again, I don't even deal with that stuff, which is nice. My operations manager does. But no, I don't really get pushback for the design fee upfront or the project management fee, which is great. I will say that my design fee, I don't get negotiation on, but from time to time, I'll get negotiation on the project management fee. But I have a template email that I send as soon as someone says your fees are high, I hit them right back with an email that I've sent. Here's all the things that project management includes. Again, a la your advice, Rebecca. That really, and then as soon as I send that, they're like, "Oh, okay." Like, I see it, and I think it's just educating them on, because they don't understand how long things take either.
Yeah, one of our questions on our intake form is this your first renovation, or have you done renovations before?
Well, that's a good one. I mean, I do ask that in the discovery call, but I'm going to add that to the script.
Yeah, it's a good one. And also, like, if you work with another designer, what's their name?
Always ask that.
Yeah, always ask that.
Ooh, I've learned some juicy details about other designers, I'll tell you, when I ask that question.
I can think of a specific story you told me.
That story repeated itself with another client. Yeah. That same designer that you know the story about. Okay, I'm sorry, I won't be gossipy, but I'm just going to say that there are designers out there who are not following a great process and who are causing a lot of pain to their clients without knowing it.
But that can happen they're either too green, they don't understand, like they haven't gone through enough, or they don't have those processes in place yet.
Yeah, no, this was like a big firm.
Yeah, or the owner has stepped away, and so there's just chaos. There's chaos, because obviously no one wants to have like a bad review, especially in a small community like ours.
Yeah,
and I'm sure, and I know I have. I'm sure I know I have,
especially in my early years.
Oh yeah,
oof, yeah.
We'll always have 1 out of 10 clients who's that like bad apple. It doesn't matter what you do; they'll never be happy.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, guys, for coming on the podcast.
Oh, you're welcome.
This is fun.
This is fun.
Doing this.
I know this is kind of what we do at our like monthly hangout, anyways. But it's all recorded.
I know.
So we can hold you all to things like Carly's going to charge more for her consultation.
I'm going to charge more. I'm actually going to be flooding this area that I'm working on right now with like just like a flyer, kind of saying like we're in the area, and it's a good area that has parking and like is kind of like west of the city. And we're going to do a COVID special, I think. So what we're going to do is we're going to say, okay, this is the fee, but we're bumping it up end of this month. So if you want to get our like pre-bump up fee, you have to act now.
Give them a deadline. That's
idea.
clever. I like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, Jessie, you used to do that. You used to drop off like cards or postcards in.
I've never done it
I did some
before.
direct mail. I mean, I'm not going to lie, it wasn't a super effective way of.
Well, we'll see what happens. And
Well,
then
how are you doing it though? Like, you're doing flyers?
I've made a nice flyer. I'm putting like a handwritten note and
See,
then like,
that
a little like
helps.
Halloween candy and just
Yeah,
be like,
that's
like
cute.
we're in the area. It's an area that just, like just in like outskirts of areas, like in cul-de-sacs, there's always those houses that haven't been touched since like the 90s and just needs a revamp. And we're doing it. And we can't have like open houses anymore. Right. And like invite neighbors to see the open house because we're in COVID.
Did you do that before?
We've done it. Like our clients used to do it because they used to like be friends with all the people in the neighborhood and they'd have people over and
you
they'd
would be
see their
there?
work and we would be there.
Oh, that's amazing.
And like the clients like loved our work. And then it's just 85% of our business, 80 to 85% is just referral and repeat business. So the best way is to get people to actually see it come through. Like there's this one house that we've done and every single time there's a long weekend, we get a call for another project.
What?
Wow.
Because they just love what we did and they entertain a lot. But now with COVID, like it's not as easy to get those referrals. So how do you do that?
Yeah, I interviewed Rachel Moriarty early on in the podcast, and she does a reveal party.
Yeah.
And so what she said she
Panos
does.
also does reveal parties.
Okay. And she like plants the seed, and her clients had early on. She's like, oh, this is going to be the best reveal party. I can already see where the
Yeah.
drinks are going to be set up. I would never have the nerve to suggest that. I always assume my clients are private people and they wouldn't want to. But to be honest, I've never asked.
It just takes a certain client. Like you can tell if they're like
Yeah.
fun and open or if they're just like very private.
Yeah.
Because some people are referral people and some people don't talk about it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow.
What kind of clients do you have? Do you have referral clients or do you have
I have a
non-referral
mix.
clients?
A lot of referral clients, but I also have some clients who have specifically said, we don't want this photographed. We don't want our name mentioned. We're very private people. I photographed one client's condo, which was beautiful. And they had this incredible Canadian art collection. And she said the one stipulation is like, you're welcome to photograph it, but we don't want any of our art shown. So, I mean,
Because it's
just
kind of a liability to them.
Yeah, they don't want
Yeah.
everyone knowing that they have hundreds of thousands of dollars
Yeah.
in their
Yeah, makes
apartment or
sense.
their house. And I think I have worked with quite a few clients who are quite private. Like they have their friend circle, but they're not like they wouldn't open their doors necessarily. I don't know. I've never really
Not every
asked.
client's like that, but a
Yeah.
few clients are like that social house on the street. So like,
So do you go to these cul-de-sacs that have a lot of parking and look
I
at the
said
house?
cul-de-sac because I did not remember the word for it. I have baby brain right now.
That's fine. You're doing
It
pretty well,
lasts
actually.
for a long time, let me
You
tell
guys are
you.
doing well. But like, do you like assess and look around the street and say, which of these houses is the party house? And then you just drop your
I
flyer
don't know.
there?
No, I just like look at houses that seem like they've been they're trying to do updates, but you know that like
They need help.
They need help, or they need the interior needs a refresh.
Okay, we're gonna do a podcast in the future. We're gonna circle back to this
Yes.
and find
I'll
out
tell
how
you
that
how it
went.
goes.
Yeah, I can't wait.
I'm gonna leave a code on the flyer so that if they call in and they give us the code, then we can track it.
Girl, you're techie.
Brilliant.
That's techie.
Yeah.
I learned that from Gabby.
Yeah. It's like an affiliate link.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You gotta do that. You have to track. You have to see like your
Yeah.
leads or your acquisitions and what you're spending on it.
Yeah, you could teach me more about that.
I just got taught that.
Are you writing all these ideas down?
I know, I should be. I'm banking them in my head. Oh my gosh, so many podcast ideas.
No.
All right, any parting words for our designers that are listening?
Just keep going. Just
Yeah.
keep going. I don't know. I always said yes at the beginning. It's so hard and then now I say more no, but I always said yes to everything, which
Yeah, I
is not
did
always
too.
a good thing, but it gives you the information to like now that we've had years under our belt, we're able to say this I like, this I didn't like, and we tried it. Mm-hmm. But not everyone would think that way.
Yeah. I mean, I think that structure as a creative person is so important. And any way that you can try to instill it in your business, you'll be a happier person because it'll just allow you to get to work on the fun stuff which is the creative stuff. And,
Yeah, 'cause that's
you know,
only
I know it's
20%.
cliche to say, but it's so true. Like 80% of our businesses is the business and 20% is the creative part.
Yeah. So get your employees to do the 80%.
Exactly. So that you can do the 20%. And I am only just getting into that groove now after being in business for a long time. But it feels really good.
Yeah. It's always good to have mentors. Rocco, like having him in the business for like 15, 20 years before I came in, he was able to say, okay, focus on this, do this. And then, but he has things that now that I've built that strength, we have conflicting thoughts, and that's okay.
Yeah.
And you know what? Not everyone has a mentor. And I think that's something that people think, oh, I don't have a mentor, so I'm not going to have that success. But I would say I never had really a mentor. I had designer buddies who I could go to, like Jessie, and I had courses. And
your
then
husband?
recently,
Really?
podcasts.
Sorry, Chris.
I love him. I do love him.
But I thought he teaches you so much. No?
Yeah, everyone thinks that. Isn't that great? Technology. He's really good at technology. I bounce ideas off him all the time as an entrepreneur, but a lot of what I've learned is from reading books.
Yeah, reading books is
taking
helpful.
online courses, listening to podcasts. Like that's a relatively new thing. I wish that existed when I started my business. Oh my gosh. Everyone who's starting right now has such a leg up.
I know, but it's also good to have like that mentor, that advisory, like we have an advisory panel for Collective, and it's so helpful because it's people who have gone through business, have come on the other side, have had their trials and tribulations, have had successes and failures, and are able to say, okay, steer on this path, but don't go there, because if you're going there, you need to do this, 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 and like, I don't think it's a good idea. And these people that you trust and you respect, and they now are someone that you ask questions, but you actually come to them with like, this is how our business is doing. This is what initiatives that we like to partake in. These are the things that are hindering our business. These are the things that are giving us so much success. And, what is your take on all this?
Yeah, ultimately, you can't do this all by yourself. You don't want to be in a silo. Like Jessie was saying before, when you start out, you feel like you're all alone. And whether you have an advisory panel, like Fancy Pants over here, or you listen to podcasts.
It's basically people that that you just think like, you know what?
I would say the answer to that is like seek community.
Yes.
Seek community of like-minded people wherever it suits you. Because we are stronger together. I do firmly believe that, in collaboration, not competition, especially I think in these creative industries where so many of us are running our own businesses without employees. We're all on our own. We need community. And like, I don't know, I would not be where I am today if I did not have those resources of peers and people who are maybe just a little bit ahead of me to, like you say, advise me and help and just learn from.
Yeah.
So it's a good lesson. All right. I'm sad to say we've gone way over time, but this is amazing. So thank you so much, gals, for joining.
You're welcome.
Yeah, our pleasure.
We'll have you back. Okay, that was really fun. I've never done that before, and I think I need to do that more often. It's great to have a conversation and just really share and learn from each other. And then obviously it's always great to record it so that other people can listen and learn. It's almost like you guys got a glimpse into what our monthly get-togethers are like. It's literally a gab fest of us talking about what's going on in our business, saying, hey, have you tried this? You should do that. Oh, yeah, that's a great idea. I hope you took a lot away from learning about the differences between Jessie and Carly's process. What I loved about that conversation is that, we are all running our businesses so differently and we're all passionate. This is what I think really stood out to me is that, Jessie loves the styling and the fabric side of things. Carly loves the hard finishes and the construction, the renovation side of things. And I'm kind of in the middle between the two. But what I think is a good takeaway is that it's okay to not want to do the full package. It's okay to not be passionate about all the elements of a design project. And I think as designers, we get caught up in watching our competition and seeing someone who's like full service, who does the whole thing, who implements, and not every designer wants to do that. Some designers just want to specify. Some just want to decorate, and that's okay. And that's why I think a process cannot be a one-size-fits-all.
Okay, wow. What an amazing episode. We really hope you enjoyed it and that you had some aha moments and lots of takeaways that'll help you start brainstorming your own process. I feel like what's been said and what's been shared has been so spectacular that I'll just end it here. That's it for us today. We would love it, though, if you could subscribe or follow. If you subscribe, you'll be notified every Thursday when a new episode drops. We also want to know what you're loving about the podcast and what other topics you'd like to hear. Here's the invite to slide into our DMs on Instagram at Miss Rebecca Hay and join our designer Facebook community and tell us what you think and what interviews you want to hear. The link, as always, is in the show notes. That's it for now. We will see you next week with a brand new episode, and best of all, Rebecca will be back. That's it. Have a great day.